Good afternoon, friends. I'm here with Ann Robinson, our lay member to annual conference, and we want to share with you today a little bit about what we experienced a couple weeks ago now as we attended a virtual annual conference. Something very different. I don't think, well, we did that last year to a certain degree, but this year was unique in that we tried to vote as well as have this good. Well, I'm glad that you got to vote, but we had some complications.
Yes, we
I
did.
promise you.
Yes, we did. Yes.
I promise you we had complications. So anyway, it was a different experience, but one that we still got to be United Methodist in connection and celebrate life together. So Anna, I'll toss it to you and give you a chance. I know that you've been more times than we can count on one hand, more times than we can count with fingers and toes and nose all together. But just tell us what the most exciting and meaningful parts of the annual conference were for you.
I love going and attending and representing Westminster Church at conference. It is so much fun. Working the crowd, talking to the people. I love the worship part of it. Mm-hmm. That is just really special to me. The music. And I was brought to tears by some of the songs. It would just means so much to my heart just to share in the singing and the worship part. I was blown away when Clay opened the very first service with his song
Are We Yet Alive?
And
Are We Yet Alive?
Excuse me, and
yes.
Are We Yet Alive?
Yes. The great hymn of Methodism that has begun every annual conference since the beginning.
That's right. That would be in our red book, 553. By Charles Wesley, 1749, he wrote that song. So, Clay was just like playing the organ, singing. It was beautiful. Just to have one of our own Kinstonians and Westminster persons from the past.
Right. Clay is now at First United Methodist Church in Fuquay as the director of music and did a very nice job.
Beautiful. And also, I would like to share the theme of annual conference.
Great.
That's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the scripture. The Lord will guide you continually and satisfy your needs in parched places and make your bones strong. And you shall be like a watered garden, like a spring of water, whose waters never fail. That's from Isaiah 58:11. Our churches and ourselves, we're all in parched places. And we need to be well watered with God's direction and His spiritual gifts to us. And the question is, who needs a drink of water today? We all do. And God has it for us. That was a very important part of my worship the last few days.
You know, that image of a well-watered garden and what you just said about we all need that cup of water today. Yes. It reminds me of Scripture and how Jesus offers the woman at the well something to drink. And when you say everybody, I'm reminded that one of the beauties of annual conference is when churches get to share the various ministries they have. Right. You know, everything from prayer shawl ministry like we have here to very vibrant youth and children's ministries. We have crazy ministries that, over COVID especially, there were folks that opened food pantries, not for the normal sense of folks that we think of needing food, that are folks who are poor and in poverty, but having ministries to take food to the elderly when it was, the thought was it was too scary to go to a grocery store. I remember having folks in my previous church, they didn't go grocery shopping. They had to get people to do that in the early days of COVID because they just weren't going to go. They were scared to touch stuff. They were scared to be out in front of people. And granted, things have changed, but people develop ministries. I know during the lady celebration, you guys got to see some stuff. I mean, what impact did that leave upon you as you watched these other stories being told?
Well, it was just very inspiring, especially even drive-up prayer. A church had an hour a night, and people could drive and up and just request certain prayer things that they would like people to pray with them. And it was just interesting to see how different churches handled the crisis of the pandemic, and how they were able to be creative and to carry out God's work and mission. I'm reminded of a church that I saw. The lady was a recent widow, the minister, and she was approached by 3 young men, children. They asked her if they could play in her tremendous parsonage yard. And so out of that grew her little club, which she gathered them together. It was very different nationalities, but they've grown and they pray, they sing, they talk about Jesus, but it's become a little club. They play in the yard too, of course, play ball. But those children had approached her for that.
Awesome.
So, yes, it was interesting.
Now, Friday we had a different experience. We had the ordination services, but of course they were all held virtually. Only families and immediate friends, as well as those who participated, were present at Fuquay Arena United Methodist Church. And there was a couple nice little symbols going on there, and some people that, some of us might know as well. Tell us more about what you experienced during the ordination time.
I loved Bishop Hope Ward's message. That was amazing.
Right.
But there were 4 different sessions of ordination. It was great. Her message was on Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee by Rembrandt's painting. It was just inspiring to hear her. And to see one of our own, Kevin Seymour.
That's right. He was ordained.
He was at 12 o'clock. But it was just a great time.
Ordination, that service is especially meaningful for me and many other clergy persons as we think about that call and that journey to become ordained. We just don't decide one day this is what we want to do, and the next day we're ordained. It's a journey. Probably most people, it's going to take 5 or 6 years from the time you get called, the time you're educated and go through the candidacy process, and the journey of taking on your first ministry and then being ordained. For others, it's much longer. And so it's a celebration as well as a great memory when we get to that time, because we remember our own ordination, mine back in 2004 when I was ordained by Bishop Edwards in a very different setting. But that sense of spirit comes back, and it's a special time.
I loved her words, "Take thou authority."
Yeah, those are dangerous words for us preachers.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I can see that.
Yeah, because every one of us has been given that command, "Take thou authority."
Yes.
And it's that wonderful tension of being a part of the life of the church, because we ultimately are called by God to appease God, and that means sometimes we're not going to please anybody around us.
That's right.
And take thou authority is a great command and reminder. Hey, remember what you've been called to do. You've been called to lead people. Not all of them want to be led.
Right.
But you're not there to please them.
Align yourself with that authority.
Exactly.
Take the authority of God's work. I think it speaks to each of us too.
It does. Everybody is called in some capacity.
That's right. To bear the yoke of Christ.
Yeah. And every person that's been baptized is called as a witness and a servant. And when we take our vows as members in the United Methodist Church, we become part of this great body. One of the beauties of an annual conference is it has equal representation, at least on paper, not always in presence.
Right.
But in paper, we make sure that there is one clergy member for every layperson that is a voting member. And annual conference, while there is plenty of business that we vote on, and this year we took care of our annual conference budget, which affects our apportionments. We took care of our nominations, which provides leaders at the conference level and our district level. But there's also plenty of times that, when we are in person, you can just come and sit and participate in the worship and what's being taught and ways of learning. This year, like all years, we stream everything, and therefore it's archived. So that laity celebration, those worship services, anyone can go check out in the leisure of their own favorite chair at home.
And they should do, I do recommend that they do that.
Yeah, and so those links are part of our Facebook communication and email communication. I urge you to check them out. We are in a major time of transition. The
Yes.
general and jurisdictional conferences have been postponed from their normal sessions in 2020, and then their adjusted sessions in 2021 to now be 2022. The biggest thing is that means that our book of discipline, which is updated every 4 years to set the law of the land for who we are as United Methodist people, is going to be extended to another year. Also means that the jurisdictional conference, whose major business is electing and appointing bishops, has been delayed.
Right.
But we also have some bishops that are retiring.
Yes.
Dear pastor of Westminster's past, Paul Leland, the bishop currently in Western North Carolina, is retiring. And our own Bishop Hope Morgan Ward, who is also a native son of North Carolina, or native daughter of North Carolina.
Yes.
She is retiring. And they will both retire come the end of August.
Right.
And so what has been done is the College of Bishops for the Southeast has approved a plan that will allow Bishop Leonard Fairley, a native son of North Carolina, who currently serves the Kentucky and Redbird missionary conferences. He will also now share leadership in North Carolina.
Right.
So he's a lucky guy. He doesn't just get 2 conferences, he gets 3.
Busy.
He will be busy. He will now also become our bishop September 1 to see us through the transition. Our conference is very strong with leadership. And so Beth Hood, who has served as the assistant to the bishop for ministerial relations over the last year, and of course that position has been around for a long time. Reverend Hood, she will take on the role of assistant to the bishop for clergy life. She's going to shepherd that call to ministry from the time you're called to the time of retirement and even death, and she will excel in that. She's done a great job.
Yes.
Already. And then the other part of her position that she's had, the assistant to the bishop role for administrative matters and being a witness to the church, will go to Reverend Gray Southern. And Gray will handle many of those duties, working hand in hand with Bishop Fairley,
Yes.
and he will excel at that as well. So we are in great hands, I think, as we
Yes.
move forward.
So,
It is a year of transition, and like COVID has done to so many, we've had to adapt and think about how we overcome. And with God's help, the garden will be well watered.
yes.
And as we have seen, we have produced great fruit, and there's greater fruit to come as we stay in contact with God.
Yes.
Anything you want to add before we close?
I think that about covers it.
All right.